At 3 a.m., most people think the birds outside their window are asleep. They're not. In fact, some of them are awake for one specific reason. You. Maybe you've heard it before. A sudden chirp outside the glass in complete darkness. A scratching sound near the window. The silhouette of a bird sitting perfectly still under a streetlight, facing your house. Not moving, just watching. Most people ignore this moment because they assume birds sleep through the night. And for the most part, they do. But over the last decade, researchers studying urban bird behavior have discovered something deeply unsettling. Certain birds are becoming active at night in ways they were never supposed to. And in many cases, the behavior begins outside human homes. Subscribe before you leave, because tonight we're walking through the strange reason birds gather outside windows after dark, why some species repeatedly return to the same houses, and why people across the world keep reporting the same unnerving feeling that the birds outside aren't just resting, they're observing. Let's start with the sound. If you've ever heard birds chirping at night, especially between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., your brain probably treated it as abnormal immediately. That's because your brain knows birds belong to the daytime soundscape. Birdsong means morning, sunrise, safety. So when you hear birds vocalizing in complete darkness, something feels wrong instantly. And biologically, your instincts are correct. Most songbirds are diurnal, meaning they are evolutionarily designed to sleep at night. Their bodies follow circadian rhythms controlled by light exposure. At sunset, hormone levels change, body temperature drops slightly, and activity decreases. But urban environments have started interfering with that system. Research from multiple universities studying artificial light pollution has shown that streetlights, porch lights, apartment lighting, and illuminated windows are changing bird sleep cycles. To a bird, your neighborhood no longer becomes fully dark. It glows, and that glow confuses them. Birds exposed to artificial nighttime lighting wake earlier, sleep less, and in some species begin nocturnal activity patterns entirely outside their normal biology. But light alone doesn't explain the behavior people keep noticing outside their windows. Because the strange part isn't just that birds are awake, it's where they choose to be awake. Human homes. Researchers studying urban robins in Europe found that birds living in cities consistently position themselves near illuminated residential areas during nighttime vocal activity. Why? Because insects gather near light. Warmth radiates from buildings. Predators are easier to detect. And most importantly, humans unintentionally create protected ecosystems around their homes. Your porch light attracts moths. Your garden attracts worms. Your trash attracts insects. Your roof creates warmth pockets during cold nights. To a bird, your house may be one of the safest nighttime locations in the entire area. But safety creates familiarity, and familiarity changes behavior. Now here's where things become significantly more unsettling. Birds are not passive observers of their environment. They are constantly collecting information. Research from the University of Exeter demonstrated that many bird species monitor human routines with surprising precision. They learn feeding schedules, recognize movement patterns, and adjust their own behavior around predictable human activity. In experiments involving food placement, birds quickly learned which humans posed no threat and which humans interrupted feeding opportunities. They watched, they remembered, and they adapted. This is why some birds appear outside the same windows repeatedly, not randomly, predictably. The robin that lands near your bedroom window every morning may not just like the tree outside. It may have learned your routine. The crow sitting on the telephone wire may know exactly when your kitchen light turns on. The blue jay calling from the fence may recognize the sound of your door opening before you even step outside. And once birds learn a location is useful, they return to it constantly. Now, let's talk about the staring, because this is the part people remember most. You look outside late at night and see a bird sitting completely still, facing your window. No movement, no sound, just staring. Why? First, understand something important about bird vision. Birds experience the world differently than humans do. Many species can detect ultraviolet light, subtle movement shifts, and reflective surfaces in ways our brains cannot process naturally. At night, windows become strange objects to birds. From certain angles, your lit room creates a partially reflective surface. Birds may see movement inside while simultaneously seeing reflected trees, sky, or even themselves. To some species, your window becomes a confusing visual phenomenon worth investigating, especially territorial birds. Cardinals, robins, and mockingbirds are notorious for reacting aggressively to reflections. During breeding season, many birds attack windows because they believe another bird has entered their territory. But at night, the behavior becomes quieter, more investigative. They perch, they tilt their heads, They watch movement inside. And because humans are deeply wired to interpret direct eye contact as social attention, the experience feels intensely personal. You feel observed. Now, here's the disturbing part. Sometimes you are. Crows, ravens, magpies, and blue jays belong to a group called corvids, widely considered among the most intelligent birds on Earth. And corvid intelligence is not abstract, it's measurable. Studies from the University of Washington showed that crows recognize individual human faces and remember them for years. More remarkably, they communicate those recognitions socially. One crow learns your face, then other crows learn it too. Researchers observed crows scolding specific humans years after negative encounters occurred. Younger crows who had never directly experienced those humans still reacted aggressively because older birds had taught them. Now, think about what this means in a neighborhood environment. If you've ever fed crows, chased them, disturbed a nest, or interacted with them repeatedly, the bird outside your window may genuinely recognize you, not humanity, you specifically. And unlike most animals, crows don't immediately flee after recognizing something important. They observe. There are countless reports from homeowners describing crows returning daily to the same locations, watching windows, waiting on fences, and appearing moments before residents leave their homes. Most scientists explain this simply. Crows are pattern learners. They associate humans with food, danger, or routine. But emotionally, the experience feels very different when a bird seems to know where you are before you've made a sound, especially at night. Now, let's discuss the phenomenon that has made some wildlife researchers deeply uncomfortable: nocturnal collision behavior. Across cities worldwide, birds repeatedly fly into windows at night. Millions die this way every year, but the truly strange cases involve birds that do not collide. They hover, tap, or repeatedly approach specific windows without impact. Researchers believe artificial light disorients migrating birds. Many migratory species navigate using moonlight, stars, and Earth's magnetic field. Bright urban lighting interrupts that system. Birds become trapped in illuminated zones, circling buildings for hours, but homeowners experiencing this rarely interpret it scientifically, because from inside the house it looks intentional. A shape outside the glass, returning again and again, appearing suddenly in darkness, then vanishing. And your brain does something dangerous in moments like this. It assigns intention. Humans evolved to detect eyes, faces, and attention patterns because missing a predator once could be fatal. So when something watches your window in darkness, your nervous system immediately becomes alert, even if the explanation is harmless. Your pulse increases, your hearing sharpens, you stop blinking as often, you feel exposed. Birds trigger this response particularly strongly because they move differently from mammals. Quick head turns, abrupt silence, sudden motion. Their behavior feels difficult to predict, and unpredictability creates psychological tension. This is why horror films use birds constantly. Not because birds are dangerous, but because humans instinctively distrust animals that appear intelligent while remaining emotionally unreadable. A dog communicates emotion clearly, a bird does not. A crow can stare at you for 30 seconds without revealing anything, and your brain hates that ambiguity. Now, here's something most people never realize. The birds outside your house know more about your schedule than you think. If you leave for work every morning at 7:15, local birds learn that movement pattern. If you fill a feeder at sunset, they remember. If your kitchen light activates every night at midnight, birds nearby incorporate that environmental signal into their behavior. You are part of their ecosystem. And over time, the line between observation and familiarity becomes surprisingly thin. Researchers studying pigeons found they could memorize complex urban routes and recognize specific visual landmarks associated with food or safety. Chickadees can remember thousands of food cache locations. Crows solve multi-step puzzles. Ravens plan ahead. Bird intelligence is not primitive, it's specialized, which means when a bird appears outside your window repeatedly, it may not be random behavior at all. It may simply be a creature that has learned your house matters. Now, does this mean birds are spying on you? No, but it does mean something slightly stranger. The wildlife around your home is paying attention to you far more than you are paying attention to it. And once you notice that relationship, it's difficult to stop noticing it. The bird on the fence every morning, the tapping sound near the glass, the sudden silence when you open the door, the shape on the wire outside your bedroom window at 3 a.m. Your neighborhood is full of creatures monitoring movement, light, sound, and routine constantly. Most of the time, you just don't realize you're part of the system they're studying. So what should you do if birds keep appearing outside your window at night? First, reduce unnecessary outdoor lighting. Light pollution disrupts bird sleep, migration, and navigation. Close blinds during migration season. Turn off decorative lights late at night. and if a bird repeatedly taps or hovers near a window. Consider applying decals or external screens that reduce reflections. But most importantly, stop assuming you're invisible to the natural world around you. You are being observed every single day, not maliciously, not mysteriously, but constantly, by animals intelligent enough to recognize patterns, remember experiences, and adapt around human behavior in ways we are only beginning to understand. Tonight, when you hear chirping outside after midnight, when you notice movement near the glass, when you pull the curtain back and see a small silhouette sitting silently under the porch light, you may still feel uneasy, and maybe you should, because the birds outside your window are not just random background creatures anymore. They know where you live, and they've been watching longer than you think. Tell me in the comments, have you ever seen a bird outside your window late at night? What did it do? I read every comment, and I'll see you in the next one.